We're live from Lagos, Nigeria, and this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Preparations for Osun governorship election intensify as police insist they have no preferred candidate. Labour leaders demand urgent review of minimum wage, say 70,000 naira no longer matches inflation. U.S. President Donald Trump once again signs executive orders to restrict birthright citizenship.
In business, Central Bank of Nigeria survey shows micro businesses, urban households facing higher inflation pressure.
News tonight, Shooting Stars Sports Club of Ibadan will face newly promoted Inter Lagos in the opening match of the new Nigeria Premier Football League season.
Tonight begins shortly. Welcome. We continue our countdown to what is shaping up to be a high-stakes governorship election in Osun State, with just 8 days to go. As political campaigns intensify, the Accord Party has renewed its call for the resignation of EFCC Chairman Ola Olukoyede over the account freeze controversy, while the Inspector General of Police is reassuring voters of adequate security and a level field on Election Day. Here are the details. Ahead of the Saturday, August 15 governorship election, the Nigeria Police has warned political actors against any attempt to disrupt the electoral process, saying anyone found undermining the peace will be dealt with in accordance with the law. Speaking during an engagement with civil society organizations on election security, Inspector General of Police Olatunji Disu pledged the neutrality of the police in the conduct of the poll and urged eligible voters to come out and exercise their civic rights without fear.
To know we held this meeting, officers will be sanctioned accordingly. I'm not going to call any officer behind the door and say, this is what you are going to do there. Go there and do the proper work of monitoring, directing the conduct of the election. I call on all political parties, candidates, and their supporters to conduct themselves too responsibly before, during, and after the elections. Because there are offenses that could be committed before the election, during the election, and after the elections. Anybody caught will face the music according to the laws of the land.
Whether it's in a survey that was conducted by civil society, the public is really concerned about the neutrality of security agencies. And for we who are also observers, we are also aware, that there are also attempts either to use, security agencies to influence the outcome, of the election. But then, this is the same police force that managed previous elections and did perform in such a stellar fashion.
For those of them listening, for those of them that we get to know we held this meeting, officers will be sanctioned accordingly. I'm not going to call any officer behind the door and say, this is what you are going to do there. Go there and do the proper work of monitoring, directing the conduct of the election. I call on all political parties, candidates, and their supporters to conduct themselves too responsibly before, during, and after the elections. Because there are offenses that could be committed before the election, during the election, and after the elections. Anybody caught will face the music according to the laws of the land.
Whether it's in a survey that was conducted by civil society, the public is really concerned.
We head now live to Osogbo, where our correspondents Mercy Babajide and Bernard Akede have been tracking today's key political and security developments. We'll also be joined shortly by Godson Wankwo, Director of Programs and Policy at the Center for Youth Participation, Dialogue and Advocacy Africa. He will be joining in from Jos for a broader assessment of the race. Let me quickly bring in Mercy. Mercy, good evening. You've spent time with both the APC campaign and the resident electoral commissioner today. What is the biggest message both sides are trying to send to voters?
Okay, hello, good evening, Felicity rather. We spent a couple of minutes, or better still hours, with the INEC Correct today. That is Mrs. Babalola, and she ensured to assure the media that INEC is ready for a free and fair, credible election. She spoke about how they've sensitized the general public, and they're hoping for inclusion. And when I mean inclusion, not just women, of course, persons with disabilities. And she also moved forward by giving numbers of people that actually registered to get their PVCs, and this number is ranging to over 600,000, and about 400,000 people had collected their PVCs as of the time. That was this morning, but then collection of PVCs already ended as of, I think, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. today. We actually ran into a couple of persons that came there to collect their PVCs, but then away from INEC, we moved to APC. There's been lots of things APC has alleged, moving from the fact that they've said that Governor Ademola Adeleke actually awarded a contract to of the airport. He wants to build in air. They said he awarded the contract to an interior design person, and they said him trying to achieve the record of the longest runway in the world is not visible. But then one would wonder, does Osun State deserve an airport or not? But it seems like APC is saying they do not want an airport. But then part of the problems some persons have raised is the major problem with government is always continuity when it comes to the fact that a government starts a project and then another government comes and discontinues that project and then start afresh. But then that is just like one out of many issues they raised. The chairman for media for the campaign of APC also raised the issue about the fact that the superstar Davido, who doubles as, I think, chairman for one of the trust fund, equally has not done anything. There were lots of allegations, but then, of course, we have to get back to a court party for them to and give us a reply to this.
Interesting that the allegation is giving an interior designer the contract for an airport. Who knows the intricacies of that? Perhaps you can help us find out. Bernard, you on your part, you've spoken with the police public relation officer, and you've also followed the Accord Party campaign. What are the key assurances coming from security agencies?
All right, thank you, Felicity, for having me tonight. From the public relations officer of the police here, first of all, I would state that we did observe that certain police officers have already been deployed to Osun State and they've been making their way down. We could see police officers from Lagos and from certain other states, as is the practice when it comes to elections, particularly off-cycles elections like the ones that we see, the one that we are seeing in Osun State this year. Police officers are being deployed from different states to come and support the security architecture on ground here. And the public relations officer did also say that there's been some very good collaboration between the police and other security operatives on the ground, from the Army to the NSCDC to the FRSC and all others that can supply support when it comes to security in Osun State, because, of course, of the kind of election, some would say the kind of peculiarity that we get to see when we come to Osun State elections. However, the police public relations officer did assure us and assure all citizens and residents of the state that the state and the Commissioner of Police concerning the elections will leave no stone unturned to ensure that anybody or persons who intend to perpetrate whatever type of crime or criminality during this period will be brought to book. And he also did make good to mention that they would not just be brought to book here in the state, they will be taken to Abuja and be arraigned there. Some kind of deterrent sending out to all those who may have the intention, to perpetrate crime, basically. And then to also add that we did equally see some particular places where there were stops and searches going on. The public relations officer did also finally say that certain places that have been considered to be hot spots when it comes to elections in the state are places that they are going to focus their radar on and ensure that those kind of places, based on information they have from experience, will no longer be as difficult to control and maintain peace as they have seen in the past. So his assurance is that security will be top-notch and will not be compromised.
Bernard, let's stay with you for a bit longer. How is the Accord Party responding to recent political developments, particularly the EFCC controversy and the president's intervention?
All right, I think basically they are just responding without using words. They are responding by using actions. When eventually the president put out that statement, asking the EFCC to overturn, that decision they made, almost immediately, well, even with or without that, the Accord Party was still going to go on with their program. So yesterday, while we got the message from the president, the Accord Party went on with their rally. There was a commissioning of a flyover, and then we saw the current governor, Adebola Adeleke, and of course his campaign partner and nephew, David Adeleke, popularly known as Davido, going on with their campaign. They went to a second venue yesterday, and then as for today, it was the turn of the youths in the party, to throw their own campaign movement, if you like. A subtle statement saying that whether or not the EFCC froze their account, and it was unfrozen, that they will go on anyway with their party and campaign plans.
All right, Bernard, Mercy, in 40 seconds, if you can, tell us what the mood is like among expectant voters in Osogbo. Are people focused more on the campaigns or concerns about the credibility of the process?
Well, some persons have said people are more concerned about campaigns because we had the long drive through from Ifete, though, if I'm correct, to Osogbo this night. It was about a 3-4 hours journey, and all through on the road there were lots of campaigning, and some persons even mistook us for one of the parties, and you could see them chanting Ambo Ambo, and that is the slogan for the All Progressive Congress Party, because they had major campaigns in some of the rural areas. And if you ask, I would say yes, they are really, really into the campaign thingy, lots of chanting and songs and everything. And we asked the chairman for the media for APC in Osun State this morning, we asked if this crowd would actually turn into voters for him. And he said he's 100% assured that the fact that they've put crowd means they would win the election. But then the election is about 8 days away. Let's see what happens. Over to you in the studio.
All right, Mercy, thank you so much for your coverage. Bernard as well, thank you. And you both, please be safe as you go about covering the campaigns. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking with Godson Nwankwo on a broader issue with the elections we're expecting come August 15. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Let's now move beyond the events on the ground, as my colleagues have unveiled, and examine the broader implications of the election. Joining us from Jos is Godson Nwankwo, Director of Programs and Policy at the Center for Youth Participation, Dialogue and Advocacy Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on the news. With just days to the polls, what should Nigerians be watching most closely to judge whether this election is credible?
So much for having me. So I'm just going to say first, Nigeria should be looking at the conduct of INEC. So far, INEC has already said that they've completed most of their logistical processes. They've deployed over 4,000 beavers to local governments. They've also conducted security mappings, in collaboration with the security agencies. So I think this is already commendable. So what is now left is for them to deliver a credible and fair election. Secondly, I think Nigerians should also be looking at the neutrality of the security agencies. The work of the security agencies is to protect the voters, to protect the electoral officers, and to also protect the election materials, not the politicians, right? So we've seen situations in the past where security agencies guide people that snatch his ballot. So I think Nigeria should be paying attention to the neutrality of the election security agencies. Thirdly, as well, is the voter turnout. Osun has about 1.95 million registered voters, and so far there's over 1.5 million that have collected their PVC. But with the events that is happening, the violent events and security events, there might be low turnout. And this is really going to define the elections, because people will be afraid to come out if they perceive that there is going to be harm. And there are a lot of flashpoints. Even the National Peace Committee have flagged off. So Nigeria should be paying attention to the voter turnout. And fourthly, I think we should also pay attention to the transparency of the election collection during the election. And then finally, the outcome of the election. We've had cases where after elections, there is violence and people are killed, people disagree with the outcome of the election. So in this election, credible election will mean that those who lose, we actually believe that they lose fairly to the people who want. So these are things I feel like Nigeria should be looking at, leading to the election.
Godson, you've just refocused our attention because a lot has been said about the controversy surrounding the EFCC and the Osun government. Do you believe that shifted attention a little more away from the real issues affecting voters?
Absolutely, it did. If you look at voters, the things that has remained consistent in what voters care about are actually the issues, jobs, rising cost of living, education, healthcare. But unfortunately, during election seasons like this, institutional controversies always consume election issues, like the EFCC, for instance. Yes, we argue that the EFCC is actually carrying out its statutory mandate to investigate financial crimes, but the timing is very wrong, right? And also the directive of the president for EFCC to unfreeze the account also sets a very dangerous precedent, because EFCC is supposed to be an independent agency, and the president do not have the constitutional right to tell EFCC what to do, especially in its operative, mandate. So I feel like it has shifted the conversation from the real issues, and people are now, talking about it because it also shows some political tones. Because why hasn't this investigation started since? Okay. Of course, so it shows political tones as well. So it has shifted the conversation solely from the issues.
Okay. You are a civil society group as well, if I'm correct. So talk to us a bit about the role that civil society and election observers should be playing in this final week before the election.
So one of the most important things I think civil society should be doing is to encouraging people to participate, without violence, and also discouraging misinformation. So in election period like this, there's a lot of misinformation, fake news that, comes from different camps. And this is where the civil society comes in to educate the people, to help the people. So civil society, as the watchdog of democracy and the bridge between institution and citizen, should be there to guide people, to encourage people to participate, right? Secondly, also is to deploy observers across the local government to observe the elections credibly, and to also document the events professionally without being objective or without being seen as political actors. And finally, is just to continue to educate citizens. The events that is happening in Osun, like I said, has already created fear in the minds of the people, but they need reassurance, to come out and vote. And the security agencies like the IG of police has assured Nigerians that there will be maximum security during the election. The civil society can help, to educate people, to tell them, to come out to vote. So I feel like these are the things that the civil society should be paying attention to as we go into the elections.
Godson, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Still talking elections, presidential candidate of the Accord Party, Professor Christopher Imumolem, has withdrawn from the 2027 presidential race and declared his support for President Bola Tinubu's re-election. He said his decision was based on putting Nigeria's interest before his personal political ambition. He also stated his confidence in Nigeria's economic recovery and the need for stability and continuity.
As the presidential candidate of the Accord, during the duly conducted presidential primaries, I, Professor Christopher Imumolem, in consultation with the leadership of the party, made the patriotic decision to withdraw from the presidential race and fully support the re-election of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, in the 2027 presidential election. This decision was not born out of personal interest, but from a deep conviction that the unity, stability.
Let's bring you one of our lead stories tonight. Labour leaders have called for an urgent review of Nigeria's 70,000 national minimum wage, saying it is no longer reflecting the economic realities facing workers. The demand was made at the 2026 Nigeria Rights of Workers Summit in Birni Kebbi, Kebbi State, which marked 88 years of legally recognized trade unionism in Nigeria. Speaking on behalf of Nigeria Labour Congress President Joe Ajaero, NLC Deputy President said the minimum wage remains one of the major challenges confronting Nigerian workers. He said rising prices of goods and services have made the 70,000 naira wage inadequate, calling for fresh negotiations between labor unions and the federal and state government. Victims abducted during the deadly attack on Woro and Nuku communities in Kayama local government area of Kwara State have arrived in Ilorin following their rescue from after months of captivity. The victims reportedly arrived late Thursday night and were received at the Nigerian Army's 2 Division Sobi Barracks before being moved to an undisclosed location for the night. The rescued victims are expected to be formally handed over to the governor, Abdurrahman Abdurazak, while authorities continue to verify the number of those released and provide medical and other support. Meanwhile, a member of the Kwara State House of Assembly, Saidu Baba Ahmed, alleged that some children among the 176 people abducted had been recruited into the kidnappers' ranks. Staying with security, the Ogun State Police Command says it has rescued students abducted from Gateway ICT Polytechnic in Ipara area of the state. Commissioner of Police Bode Ojajuni disclosed this during a press conference at the governor's office in Abeokuta. Suspected armed bandits attacked a private hotel used by students of the institution last Wednesday and abducted at least 7 students. Ojajuni said the students were rescued unhurt during a security operation, while some of the suspected kidnappers were also arrested. Governor Dapo Abiodun also praised the security agencies for their responses, assuring that his administration will continue to take measures to make Ogun State unsafe for kidnappers.
Security remains a shared responsibility, and I urge all residents to continue providing credible information to the appropriate authorities. Let me reassure every resident, every investor, every visitor that Ogun State remains safe and secure and open to legitimate business and investment. Our administration will continue to strengthen intelligence gathering, deploy modern surveillance technology, improve operational mobility, and provide the logistic support required by security agencies to stay ahead of emerging threats.
We rescued 5 at the early hours of today, and we handed them over to their respective families. We reunited them, but before then we took them for our medical treatment to police medical services. And early hour to the helicopter with the ground forces stormed the kidnappers' den.
Residents of Kupa Kingdom, Lokoja local government area of Kogi State, say the scars of the violence recently witnessed in the community remain fresh as they struggle to come to terms with their losses. This follows the deployment of security operatives to the area following Thursday's deadly reprisal attack that left several people dead and many others injured. My colleague, Mono Balagbobo, reports.
See that body. This is Lala the Apenso. This is Lala the Apron, so this is the moment they are coming now.
The blood has been washed away. The gunfire has fallen silent. But across communities in Kupa Kingdom, the pain of Thursday's deadly reprisal attack still lingers. A day after the violence, residents are cautiously returning to their daily lives as security operatives maintain a presence in the affected communities to prevent further attacks while investigations continue.
Around 8 o'clock, this accident happened from checking point between Fulani and our vigilante. So our vigilante now, Fulani shooter, enter. Our vigilante now taking gun, revenge with the banger of Fulani die. Immediately, they enter Gucci down, kill people there, enter Mikuji, kill. Enter inside Abuji market, kill both my own general border.
Residents say panic spread within minutes as gunshots rang out, sending families fleeing for safety, while others watched loved ones killed before their eyes. Community members say the attack claimed several lives and left others injured.
Let's go to the wajen operation. Suna dawa muna zaune a kofar dakin mu kawai domin kada yara su fita waje. To daga wurin kawai na tsaye kawai sai na fara jin harbi kaka. To daga baya sai na gudu na shiga cikin gida. Wallahi suka nufi cikin magari zuwa za su sata.
Very needless, senseless killing that happened, very unfortunate.
Authorities say investigations are ongoing to establish the full circumstances surrounding the incident, in a bid to ensure the culprits are not left unpunished. In Kogi, the News Central, Morno Balagbubu.
Still ahead, death toll from severe floods in India's northeast rise to nearly 100, with whole villages buried. Details when we return. Tonight on the Primetime News, we begin a new series, Friday Future. It will shine a spotlight on underreported stories, forgotten communities, and the people whose voices deserve to be heard. In this first edition, we travel beyond the historic town of Badagry to Dadilui, a remote riverine community where access to healthcare, education, and other basic services remain a daily struggle. News Center's investigative reporter, Francis Esenwa, brings us this special report.
In the 1800s, when the Christian missionaries arrived in what is now Nigeria, Badagry first received them. The missionaries brought with them Christianity, Western education, and new forms of social development. It was from here the missionaries celebrated Nigeria's first Christmas, built the first formal Western school, and completed the country's first story building in 1845. The structures left behind still stand as the earliest signs of development for Badagry. But for some communities separated by the sea, that progress never made it by boat to them. Across the waters are dozens of isolated riverine communities. Dadilui is a close-knit community. Everyone here knows everyone. They have to. They depend on one another for support. Help from outside is a boat ride too far. The only school in the community, Azuma International School, closed its doors to children living within the community.
Ìkan tó wá gba ibi tó ní òun máa kọ́ àwọn ọmọ nílé gbogbo kálukú àwọn ọmọlé àwọn jẹ́lé òsinmi gbogbo onígbẹ́ gbogbo wọn kó wọn síbẹ̀ oníkálukú inú ẹ̀ ń dùn pé àwọn ọmọ kéékèèké wọ́n lọ léèwé ìgbà tó yá tíṣà ní owó ọkọ̀ ti pọ̀ jù wọ́n lè máa san owó yẹn.
You know the danger of carrying all these young small kids to be crossing water. At times when by the time they enter the boat, all these apapa, all those what is called speed boats, you know, they will just go and they won't slow down. They will just go.
In spite of Badagry boasting of many firsts, stories of loss and pain abound owing to an almost absence of government presence.
If you get any problem here, it's either you run to the other houses to give you a boat or whatever to cross to the other side. Sometimes when you are going on the way, you lose the very person.
It was not always like this. About 10 years ago, the government built a hospital at the edge of the community, and medical care was just a walk away.
Mo ti lọ sí hospital nísìnyí bíi last year mo ti lọ sí hospital gbẹ̀yìn. Nígbà tí ṣe ń wò mí àti ìrìn yìí náà ni kí tó sọ pé mo rìn láti gbà tó pé tí ó bá ṣe pé olú ẹ̀ rí mọ́tò ń sìn pé bólú ẹ̀ bá ti lọ sí irú èyí tí ń sábà rí ọkọ̀ tó máa gbélé ọ̀sọ́dà mi lè sọ pé mo lè gun ọ̀kadà báyìí nísìn àfi tí bá rí mọ́tò tó lè máa gbéyàn lọ ká máa gbéyàn bọ̀ tó lè máa fi bọ̀ wá sílé.
The journey from Daddy Louis to Orocheti takes about 10 minutes. From there, it takes another 30-minute drive to Badagry General Hospital. In all, residents spend about 40 minutes just to reach the hospital, a facility understaffed and overstretched.
The reality is that Badagry General Hospital is serving a large population. In fact, from my 2 down to this place, this is the only general hospital available.
Sometimes ago, I have to engage the Commissioner for Health that this is what is happening in my area. So what the Commissioner put in place is coastal line, a mobile boat clinic that will be taking care of those people. So at a point, they are short of budget. So because it wasn't included in the budget, so what we have to do is just to go back and get money for them to start not only that community, all the coastal communities along the shore.
Every afternoon around 3 p.m., boats return to Daddy Louis, carrying the children home from schools. Just as we left without life jackets, the children travel each day without their life jackets, and sometimes in overcrowded boats.
Some boats, they get jackets, some boats, they don't get jackets. The jacket I get, you know, go with the students, where they inside boats, because the students too plenty.
The waterways that once carried missionaries, Christianity, and development into Badagry now carry residents in search of healthcare, education, and survival. For the people of Daddy Louis, the question is no longer whether development reached Badagry, but why it never crossed the waters to them. Their hopes now lie within whatever community efforts they can muster among themselves just to keep their lives on this historic island alive. In Lagos for News Central, Francis Esenwa.
Outside our shores, U.S. President Donald Trump has signed 2 new executive orders in a renewed effort to restrict birthright citizenship, despite a recent Supreme Court ruling blocking a similar attempt. The first order expands the categories of non-citizens whose children would not automatically qualify for U.S. citizenship at birth, while the second targets so-called birth tourism, by banning foreign nationals from traveling to the United States primarily to give birth. Global affairs analyst Tabeang Echu joins us from Washington, D.C. for more on these fresh executive orders. Thank you very much for being with us. Back in June, the Supreme Court struck down Trump's first attempt to reinterpret the 14th Amendment. This time seems to be going through visa and entry rules rather than directly redefining citizenship. Is this a meaningful legal distinction or just a walk around, likely to face the same fate in court?
Thank you for having me. I think it is the story of here we go again. I would say is likely to face the same legal challenges, even though they are trying to meander themselves around the 14th Amendment, which they dispute did not extend these rights to the categories of individuals that he is trying to prescribe from benefiting from the birthright citizenship.
Beyond travelers explicitly suspected of birth tourism, how valid are fears that this could open the doors to broader visa scrutiny for Africans generally in terms of wider discretion to consular officers to question, delay, or even deny visas to any African applicant who is perceived to either be pregnant or being of childbearing age?
Well, you have to understand, like, I would like to make two observations. That first, if you follow what he has been doing for the past couple of months, he knows that executive orders are vulnerable to being overturned should in case a different administration come in. But they are generating the widespread fear and confusion in immigrant communities and causing eligible individuals also to hesitate to even seek these legal benefits. And this is going to also have a chilling effect from the port of entry, because only obtaining a visa now is becoming so challenging. So I think their intended purpose is to send a message that it is not a walk in the park for you to now obtain a U.S. visa and then get in here and do whatever you want to do.
Tabayang, I'm afraid that's all the time will permit us for this conversation. But thank you so much for speaking with us.
It was my pleasure.
And one of our lead stories tonight, severe flooding in India's northeastern state of Assam has killed at least 97 people and affected nearly 170,000 residents. Authorities said thousands of people have been forced into temporary shelters after swollen rivers submerged homes, farmland and entire communities. More than 14,000 hectares of agricultural land have also been covered by flood waters, causing significant damage to crops and livelihoods. Stay with us for business, sports and entertainment news right after this break.
In business, the Central Bank of Nigeria's July 2026 Inflation Expectation Survey shows Nigerians earning between 150,000 and 250,000 naira monthly had the highest perception of elevated inflation at 71%. Micro businesses and urban households also reported stronger inflation pressures than larger firms and rural households. However, sentiment is improving, with the inflation perception index at 40 points, while the inflation expectation index of 21.2 points suggests respondents anticipate moderation in August. The findings come as headline inflation eased to 15.91% in June, reinforcing expectations that price pressures could gradually decline despite persistent household income challenges. And about the equities market, it extended its positive run as the Osha index gained 0.15% to close at 245,573, lifting market capitalization to 158.51 trillion naira. The modest advance reflects sustained investor confidence, with buying interest in selected large cap stocks helping to keep the market in a positive territory. We now look at the sectoral performance that was quite mixed anyway, with the banking sector surging to about 1.53%, emerging as the session's strongest performer on renewed demand for financial stocks. Insurance dipped to 0.21% amid mild selling pressure. Also, oil and gas 0.04%. On subdued trading activity, while we see consumer goods just bland, indicating a balanced session, and industrial goods also in the red, 0.37%, limiting the market's overall gains. And that's it on business. I'm Lekon Obanjo.
In sports news tonight, Nigeria's senior women's basketball team, the Tigers, began their exhibition series in China with a narrow 70-67 defeat to the host in Haikou earlier today. The reigning African champions put up a spirited display in a closely contested encounter, matching China, the fourth-ranked team in the world, for long periods before failing just 3 points short at the final buzzer. Despite the defeat, head coach Reina Wakama will be encouraged by her team's performance as the D-Tigers continue their preparations for upcoming international competitions. Nigeria will have another opportunity to test themselves against China when both teams meet again in their second exhibition game on Sunday. Still talking basketball, Nigeria's Junior D Tigers and Junior D Tigers suffered their second consecutive defeats at the ongoing FIBA Under-18 AfroBasket Championship. The boys fell 59-50 to Chad in their Group A clash at the Palais des Sports de Trégueville in Trégueville, Côte d'Ivoire, while the girls lost 74-75 after overtime. Victor Endurance Sunday and Edor Pele led the Junior D Tigers and Junior D Tigers with 13 and 14 points respectively. The Junior D Tigers will face host Côte d'Ivoire on Sunday in a must-win encounter as they look to finish the group phase on a positive note, with the Junior D Tigers looking for a similar result against Senegal. The opening fixtures for the 2026-27 Nigeria Premier Football League season have been confirmed following today's draw held on the sidelines of the league's annual general meeting in Ibadan, Oyo State. The campaign will begin on the 28th of August with a Southwest Derby as Shooting Stars host newly promoted Inter Lagos, while the remaining matchday 1 fixtures will be played on the 30th of August. Champions Rangers International will start their title defense at home against Katsina United. Now, other opening fixtures include Ikorodu City versus Ranches Bees, Abia Warriors against Kun Khalifa, Bendel Insurance versus Warri Wolves, Niger Tornadoes against Eyimba, Rivers United versus Plateau United, Doma United against Sporting Lagos, and Kwara United versus Kano Pillars. Norway have called on FIFA President Gianni Infantino to resign following his aborted plan to sell stakes in World Cup business operations to private investors. Norwegian FA President Lise Klaveness said Infantino no longer has the institutional trust needed to lead FIFA. England, Wales, Croatia and Albania have also withdrawn support for the 56-year-old, but stopped short of demanding his resignation. Klaveness cited concerns including tournament awards, FIFA's peace prize to US President Donald Trump, and the overturning of Folarin Balogun's World Cup ban. That's it on Sports News Tonight. I am Okwe Oluwa Adebari. Entertainment is next with Kate.
Tonight, in the world of entertainment, leading actors, producers, and filmmakers in Kannywood are calling on the Kano State Censorship Board to review what they describe as excessive censorship of films, warning that it is stifling creativity and weakening the messages filmmakers intend to convey. Speaking at an event in Kano, industry stakeholders argued that while regulation is necessary, over-censoring movie scenes can alter storylines and diminish the impact of the movies. Recently, the board had suspended some actors in Kannywood, ordered edits to movie scenes, and sanctioned filmmakers for productions or conduct it considered contrary to its regulations and the cultural values of the state, which some see as unnecessary. Now, away from Nigeria, South Korea's Korea Music Copyright Association, KOMCA, has reversed its ban on AI-assisted music, allowing songs created with artificial intelligence to qualify for copyright registration and royalties, provided humans remain the primary creative force. Under the new framework, effective August 3rd, creators must disclose the AI tools used and demonstrate substantial involvement in writing, composing, or arranging the music. Songs generated entirely by AI from simple prompts remain ineligible. KOMCA may also request project files, prompt histories, and editing records to verify human authorship. The landmark policy positions South Korea among global leaders in regulating AI-generated music while safeguarding creators' rights. Now that's all on Entertainment News for tonight. My name is Kate Adeogun.
That's all we have for you tonight. But before we go, a quick reminder of our top stories. Preparations for Osun governorship elections have intensified as police have insisted they have no preferred candidate. Labour leaders have demanded urgent review of minimum wage. They say 70,000 naira is no longer a match for today's inflation. Upper Shores, US President Donald Trump has once again signed executive orders to restrict birthright citizenship. Do send us your feedback and eyewitness reports. The number to do that is on your screen. Follow us on social media at News Central TV to share your thoughts as well. You can watch live programming on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Good night, but do stay tuned for more programming. Game On is next.